It is a very commonly accepted lie that there is ever a difference between doing what is right and doing what is advantageous. Those of us who live with eternity in mind know this to be true. To do what is right, to do what is moral, is to do what is advantageous. Virtue and character, formed by Judeo Christian values, are set out to be our guiding light. We certainly stumble and fall, but at the end of the day, we always know that this is our aim, our life's greatest goal. But this logic is far beyond what our self focused, self preserving, and self loving, and increasingly secular society can mentally or emotionally comprehend. When I think about the great heroes of the past, people like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Harriet Tubman, Jackie Robinson, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. come to mind. These people lived out this hard truth in their everyday lives. They knew, despite the fear, despite the hate that they faced, despite the risk of death, they knew that to do what is right is to do what is advantageous in every circumstance. This is because they lived not just with their earthly lives in mind, but with an awareness of the eternal reality of human existence. They knew that they were created for a purpose, a great purpose, and that their legacy would hopefully pave a way for future generations to live in an equal and free society, and that their work, virtue, and faith would also lead them to eternal life after death. Many American heroes, in many different capacities, served on the front lines in the fight against good versus evil. Their efforts are what inspired me to join the infantry as a young Army officer, with a desire to follow in their footsteps, right to the heat of the battle, even if it meant risking my own death. To many young Americans today, risking your death for your country seems foolish, especially as a Black man. The current mantra is that America solely exists to enslave and oppress people like me. So why would I ever want to give anything back to my oppressor? Am I suffering from Stockholm Syndrome? Why am I fighting for a country who allegedly would never fight for me? Why am I fighting? Is this nation even worth fighting for? The truth is that I was proud. I was beyond proud to wear that Army uniform. As much as I loved my name tag, my rank, and my Ranger tab, I was most honored and humbled to have that American flag on my shoulder. I knew what that flag stood for. I knew that flag stood for freedom. That flag stands for a nation under God where we strive to create justice and liberty for all. My reason for fighting was always clearest to me when I remembered those who came before me. Whether it was the all-Black Civil War 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, the Tuskegee Airmen, or the men and women of all races that fought and died in that same uniform, fighting to the death while wearing the same flag, believing in the depths of their hearts the very same beautiful truths about the United States of America that I believe. In an effort to emulate those heroes that I've mentioned before, I also fought for the generations that would come after me. I know that if the world is ever going to change, it is up to us, in this present moment, to be the ones who will make the difference. It is up to us to be the heroes of this present time who will fight against evil, tyranny, and injustice. It is up to us to defend the United States and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It is up to us. It is up to you, and it is up to me. However, I didn't always think this way. I used to believe that I was a victim. I used to accept the commonly held belief that no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't make it in this country. I was told I'd be oppressed my whole life and that I would always be an outsider. I took the lies from the media, politicians, and the celebrities and held them deep within me. This created a negative worldview that provided me an excuse for a lot of my bad behavior, but it also came along with pessimism, negativity, and a lot of outrage. But over time, things began to change. My love for common sense, my everyday experience of American life, and my study of history led me to see the truth. America was the founding place, the frontier of individual freedom. I began to internalize this reality, which greatly altered my daily behavior and my overall approach to life. I began to have what I can only describe as audacity. It was the same audacity, albeit much less substantial, that I had heard about with legends like ex-slaves Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. They had the audacity to believe that the American dream, the American Constitution, and the American values could and should apply to them as well. Booker T. Washington once wrote, "I have begun everything with the idea that I could succeed, and I never had much patience with the multitudes of people who are always ready to explain why one cannot succeed." This mindset was held tightly by so many Americans through several generations. It has continued on through the great influences of today, like motivational speaker Eric Thomas, who taught me that the only way to escape mediocrity is to wholeheartedly pursue greatness. He once said that everybody has a dream, but not everybody has a grind, meaning that not everyone puts forth the necessary work ethic to produce the results they want in life. I was inspired to believe that perhaps if I was willing to work hard, if I was willing to make sacrifices, if I was willing to change myself, perhaps I could change my circumstances. This is what true American freedom is: the freedom to change your life by doing what is right, just, and necessary. We find ourselves in a time today when American freedom is under attack, both from within and from external forces. We are up against the rising popularity of socialism, increasingly radical leftist ideologies, and direct attacks on Judeo-Christian values and religious liberties. Despite the seemingly overwhelming odds, our times desperately call for us to have the same optimism as Booker T. Washington. But that must also be coupled with the work ethic preached about by Eric Thomas. This is beautifully displayed in the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who not only had a dream, but also gave his entire life over for the cause of making it become a reality that would go on to bless millions in the coming generations. All too often, we let attitudes of pessimism, fear, and laziness permeate within our movement to defend American freedom. There are always going to be more people eager to complain than there are who are zealous for action. Knowing this, we must hold each other and ourselves accountable to ensure that we are actually willing to do the work and make the sacrifices necessary to accomplish the goal. I see the many people who, when faced with the outraged mob of progressivism, grumble in private, but for some reason, always comply in public. These would be the same people who would complain about taxation without representation, but flee at the first shot of the Revolutionary War. They would have complained about the injustice of slavery, but would have done nothing to stop it. They would have complained about Jim Crow and hated Jim Crow laws, but would have done nothing to change it. And now they gripe about the inhumane treatment of the unborn, the political assaults on the First and Second Amendment, and the constant barrage of progressivist propaganda, but still they sit silent on the sidelines. At the same time, I see many courageous men and women of all colors and creeds boldly charging the way forward in this cultural and ideological battle. I recognize these people as the heroes of today who are pushing forward on this new frontier of freedom as the fight to win America back to her now expanded and refined founding principles. Like a young man watching his older brother return home from war, I have a deep-seated eagerness to join them in this battle. We all know that all of our heroes face serious adversity. And when we are little, we always dream of being the one who gets to take the final shot in the game, or who gets to go on that war-winning secret mission, or who gets to be the lead singer on stage. I know I did. And yet somehow, when we find ourselves in the huge moment that we have before us today to step up and be the heroes, we often find ourselves shrinking to the pressure of society. We fear what we might lose or who might hate us for what we believe in. And then we proceed to run and hide. General George Patton once said that moral courage is the most valuable and usually the most absent characteristic in men. Why are we so rapidly losing the cultural battle in our country and in the world? I think this hardened war hero gives us the answer. After seeing thousands of men and women willing to bravely risk their lives for their country, it is extremely telling that General Patton says that moral courage is the most valuable and the most absent characteristic in men. Moral courage is exactly what we need today. It's the courage to recognize the truth I open with, that there is no difference between doing what is right and what is advantageous. We need the courage to live our lives and raise our families based on eternal truth and never-changing values. We must stand up for what is right, even if we are momentarily standing alone. In order to do so, we must borrow the strength from the freedom fighters of the past. We must also use as inspiration the many generations who are to come after us. It's not just about you, and it's not just about me. It's about doing what is right in the eyes of God so that we can honor the sacrifices of Americans in the past while preparing the way for future Americans to also flourish. It is time to head to the front lines of the fight for American freedom. May God bless our efforts, and may we have the fortitude to fight hard until the very end. Thank you.